Wassail, wassail all over the town. Wassail, wassail all over the town. Our bread it is white and our ale it is brown. Our bowl it is made of the white maple tree. With a wassailing bowl we'll drink to thee. So here is to Cherry and to his wenchie. Pray God send our master a good piece of beef, and a good piece of beef that we all may see. With a wassailing bowl we'll drink to thee. And here is to Jobbin and to his right eye. Pray God send your master a good Christmas pie, and a good Christmas pie that we all may see. With a wassailing bowl we'll drink to thee. Wassail, wassail all over the town. Our bread it is white and our ale it is brown. Our bowl it is made of the white maple tree. With a wassailing bowl we'll drink to thee. And here is to Philpel and to her that dear. Pray God send our master a happy new year, and a happy new year as e'er he did see. With our wassailing bowl we'll drink to thee. Come, butler, come, fill us a bowl of the best, and we hope that your soul in heaven may rest. But if you do draw us a bowl of the small, then down shall go butler, bowl and all. Wassail, wassail all over the town. Our bread it is white and our ale it is brown. Our bowl it is made of the white maple tree. With a wassailing bowl we'll drink to thee. Then here's to the maid in the lily-white smock, who tripped to the door and slid back the lock, who tripped to the door and pulled back the pin, for to let these jolly wassailers in. Wassail, wassail all over the town. Our bread it is white and our ale it is brown. Our bowl it is made of the white maple tree. With a wassailing bowl we'll drink to thee. Wassail, wassail all over the town. Wassail, wassail all over the town. Wassail, wassail, wassail. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and I brought some corn for popping. The lights are turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight, our night going out of the snow. But if you really hold me tight all the way home, I will be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbying. But as long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. La 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 la.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Envision TwinWest, charting the course, our 2017 annual celebration. My name is Patty Sagard. I'm the 2016-2017 chair of the TwinWest Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I want to thank each one of you for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedules. We have a fantastic program planned for today, so I'm excited to get our celebration underway. First, I want to thank our Armstrong High School Chamber singers. That was a wonderful holiday songs, right? It was such a treat to get us in the spirit, and really want to thank General Mills for hosting us today here at this beautiful facility. Let's give them a hand as well. I want to acknowledge today's title sponsor, Grand Casino, Mille Lacs, and Hinckley, with their National Leadership Development Conference. As our title sponsor, I want to take just a few minutes to share a little bit more about them and the upcoming conference. Here's a quick video.
Gone to many leadership conferences, but the diversity of the people that are here is really awesome. They have a lot of different thought leadership, a lot of different conversations happening, very dynamic. The speakers are absolutely amazing. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I'll be back every year.
Thank you, Grand Casino, Mille Lacs, and Hinckley. And that face was recognizable, right? We hope to see you all up at Grand Casino. I'd also like to thank other event sponsors for their generosity as well. Would the following business representatives stand and stay standing as I call out your organization's name? I'd ask that we hold applause until the end. Our presenting sponsor is Comcast Cable. Comcast Cable. Welcome, thank you. Yes, stand. Okay, well, thank you for being here and thank you for sponsoring. And our partner sponsors include Abbott Northwest West Health. Please stand, Abbott Northwest West Health. Citizens Independent Bank, Clifton Larson Allen, Medica, the Minnesota Vikings, and Smith, Schaefer and Associates LTD. They're our partner sponsors. Keep standing because we have more. Our supporting sponsors include AAA Minneapolis, thank you, Ameristar Agency Inc., CenterPoint Energy, Liberty Diversified International, Mill City Credit Union, MRA Your Employers Association, Niemer Fieger, Northeast Bank, Rasmussen College, Schechter, Dockin, Cantor CPAs, Scott Builders, Inc., Excel Energy. And our in-kind sponsors today, we'd like to recognize and thank as well, BusyWeb, Fast Signs, Gleason Printing, Randy Hepner, Graphic Design and Photography. Now is when we can all applaud and thank our sponsors. Thank you all for your generous sponsorship. So, as we all know, it's been a very transformative year for TwinWest Chamber. Over the past 12 months, we've convened a search committee to field candidates to fill the vacancy when Brad Meyer went back to his hometown chamber in Owatonna. Our board appointed and welcomed a new president. Please stand, Shannon Full. Be recognized. Shannon brings her expertise, experience, energy, catalytic leadership, wisdom, and talent to ensure our chamber is relevant not only today but in the future. We're super excited to have Shannon join TwinWest. I'd also like to thank and share my gratitude with the staff who hung in there through that transitional time and ran the chamber flawlessly. So if you are here, please stand to be recognized as well. Deb, Allie, Catherine, Victoria, and Valerie, if you're in the room, they're probably scurrying around. There's some of them. Deb stepped in as our interim and did a wonderful job, and the team rallied around her and her leadership, and I just couldn't be more proud and pleased with the work that they did as we awaited Shannon's arrival. Thank you all. At this time, I'd like to recognize our board of directors. TwinWest is fueled by the vision and leadership of its board of directors. I applaud the board for its financial generosity and devotion of time and expertise to our organization. TwinWest board of directors, please stand to be recognized. At this time, we do want to recognize a couple of outgoing board members who devoted their time and energy to TwinWest. So as I call your name, please come up. Steve Vanell of Court Sign Design and Matt Shadow of Ameristar Agency. So Steve, please come up. This could get awkward because it's in two pieces. Think we have it?
Got it.
Okay. Congratulations, Stephen. Thank you for your service. Okay.
Got it.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. All right, one more to go. Thank you,
Thanks
Matt.
very much.
Picture. Thank you both to Steve and Matt. That was great. Nothing happened, and the two pieces stayed together. It was awesome. Thank you. And thank you again to Steve and Matt for your service. TwinWest's volunteer leaders power our organization. These leaders have dedicated themselves to TwinWest and its many initiatives, including the TwinWest Foundation, the TwinWest Political Action Committee, our past chairs of the TwinWest Board of Directors, and our many committees and task forces. A listing of the committee chairs is included in your program, so please take a look. So thank you for your service if you've been a volunteer. We'd also like to recognize Wayne Teague. He is an outgoing foundation board member, served on the board of directors. Wayne Teague of ITRA Global Minneapolis-St. Paul. Please stand and be recognized, Wayne, for your service to our foundation and to TwinWest Chamber. In addition, I want to take this time to welcome our newest members to TwinWest. Again, the complete list of new members is included in your program. For those of you who have joined TwinWest in the past year or participated in the foundation, PAC, past chairs council, or any of our other many committees and task forces, please stand. So again, volunteers and our outgoing committee members, please stand. Should be a lot of you. Thank you very much. As we continue to look back over this past year, I would like to acknowledge the generosity of the members who have made a significant investment in TwinWest through their membership, sponsorship, foundation donations, and a variety of in-kind contributions. A list of TwinWest's key investors is included in your program. Your commitment and support from these businesses over the past year has been a significant part of our success. We greatly appreciate your support. Thank you to all of our 2016, 2017 key investors. Let's give them a big round of applause. And now this is where I get to hand the gavel over. But as we're preparing to hear a wonderful message from someone I respect and trust, Bob Schlichty, his message is on shipbuilding. So I'm going to pass the gavel over to your 2017-2018 board chair, Mr. Greg Palmer of Citizens Independent Bank. But we're going to do it just a little differently this year to build on that theme of shipbuilding. Many of you may know that there's a maritime tradition when a ship is launched in the water for its maiden voyage. This tradition is intended to invite good luck and to ensure safe passages for a lifetime by christening the bow of the ship with a sacrificial bottle of champagne. Envision TwinWest champagne, in fact. I'd invite both Greg and Shannon to come up right now. They will receive their ceremonial Envision TwinWest bottle of champagne, along with a commemorative compass. May the launching of this new era for TwinWest be successful through both of your leadership. May this compass help both of you set TwinWest's course into new and uncharted waters with confidence. Please join me as we welcome Greg Palmer to take over as our new chair. So, thank you. And Shannon, thank you.
Patty, thank you so much. It's an honor for me to represent TwinWest as board chair, to accept the gavel from you, and to join the great legacy of TwinWest board chairs who have preceded both of us, many of whom are here today, so we thank you for your past leadership. I'm excited to take on this new leadership role and with TwinWest and look forward to a great year of service. So envision TwinWest. If you ask Merriam-Webster or Google or even Siri for the definition of envision, you'll likely find to imagine as a future possibility. To imagine as a future possibility. Beginning with the leadership conference at Grand Casino Hinckley in June, TwinWest has been imagining our future possibilities, and we are very excited about what we see. Envision is a powerful and strategic word. Unlike some of its softer synonyms, it has a connotation of planning and preparation and purpose. Great golfers talk about envisioning or visualizing the perfect shot or a putt falling into the cup as part of their pre-shot routine. And the greatest hockey player of all time, Wayne Gretzky, is famously quoted as saying, "A good hockey player plays where the puck is, and a great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be. Now that's envisioning. And these are inspiring examples for me and the entire board of creating the future that we imagine, creating the future that TwinWest imagines. So as Patty said, this will be an exciting and transformational year for TwinWest. We're charting a new course to champion growth and prosperity by promoting and protecting business, inspiring communities, and investing in people. To do this, TwinWest is launching a new strategic framework focusing on our 4 pillars of programming: entrepreneurship and small business excellence, economic and community development, talent and workforce development, and advocacy and public policy. TwinWest is also launching an initiative campaign to raise funds to deliver this programming now and for years to come. Shannon will outline TwinWest's new strategic vision for us shortly. But first, my first order of business on behalf of the TwinWest Board of Directors is to recognize and thank Patty Sagert for her leadership and dedication as chair of the board for 2016-2017. Patty, you've done an excellent job leading, encouraging, and supporting TwinWest, and we're very grateful for all of your contributions and look forward to your continued involvement for years to come in this vibrant organization that you helped shape. As a token of our appreciation, please accept this gift of gratitude from our board and from all our members. Thank you, Patty.
Good people. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today. Today's speaker is a longtime TwinWest member and a self-proclaimed introvert who's learned to push outside his comfort zone to refine the art of shipbuilding, the building of friendships, relationships, partnerships, and sponsorships. His efforts have connected communities, businesses, and people, and have strengthened the Mille Lacs, corporate ventures, and the Grand Casino brands across the state. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm TwinWest welcome to Bob Schlichty.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start out today by thanking Shannon and the TwinWest staff for inviting me to come and speak today. I'd also like to tell you how excited I am to be here. But the truth of the matter is, I'm scared to death. You see, I'm an introvert, and speaking in front of a group of people, small group, large group, or a really large group, is way outside my comfort zone. Have you ever done something outside your comfort zone only to ask yourself, what was I thinking? Well, I have a question for you today. What was I thinking? The first time I stepped outside my comfort zone was in the late 70s, early 80s. I know what you're thinking, 1970, 1980. And I actually didn't step outside my comfort zone. It was more like pushed outside my comfort zone. I worked for a travel wholesaler in St. Paul, Minnesota at the time, and I was hired as a salesperson. I was to sell airplanes and airplane seats during the old charter days. One day, my boss comes to me and says, Bob, I need you to go to Las Vegas and buy hotel rooms. Well, that was way outside my comfort zone, so I asked him, why me? I'm a salesman. He said, well, buying is like selling, only in reverse. So we're pretty sure you can do it. Now, that in itself was a little bit outside my comfort zone. I'd only been to Vegas one other time, and that was as a tourist. Then he tells me, I want you to meet with casino executives and casino hotels and buy hotel rooms at $10 a night. $10 a night? What kind of flea bag hotel are you going to get for $10 a night? Now, an average room back then was like $50 or $70, and he wants me to go to Vegas and buy rooms for $10 a night. Now, as ridiculous as that may sound, back in those days, casino executives knew that if they had a gamer come into town and that gamer stayed at their hotel, that they would do 90% of their gambling there. So they were willing to give up some room rate to get the gamer. So I'm off to Vegas. Remember flying into Vegas, renting a car, had no idea where I was going, so I just drive around town. And I see a hotel, and it's called the Landmark. And it truly was a landmark. The Landmark is a hotel you'll probably see in old-time movies or TV shows. And I decide this might be a good place to stop because it's 4 blocks off the strip, and if anybody's going to give me a cheap room, they're going to do it. So I pull in the Landmark. I go in and I ask for the sales manager. Out walks this really young guy. Let's call him Bill. Well, his name was Bill. We sit down, and I'm starting to talk to Bill, and I quickly find out he knows more about my company than I did. We had been sending people to Las Vegas for a few years, and we sold a lot of people, so they wanted our business. So I asked Bill, will you sell us rooms for $10 a night? He said, yes. You will? He said, yeah, I'll sell you $10 rooms. Well, how many? Well, how many do you want? Well, this went back and forth for a while, and we finally agreed on a number. I go back to the Twin Cities. My job is done. Now, the reason that $10 was so important is there was about 5 wholesalers in the Twin City market at the time, and we all bought our air seats at about the same price. So the only way we could differentiate our price was having a hotel at a lower price. And really, all we really wanted to do was generate the first phone call, because if we got the first phone call, we figured we could upsell them. And all we had to do is get that first phone call because nobody could sell better than us. Well, as it turns out, everybody wants to stay at the Landmark. We were selling Landmark like crazy. About a year later, Bill calls me up and says, Bob, I got a new job. I got a job at the Flamingo Capri. Do you want to come along and buy some rooms? I said, sure, it's on the strip. That's going to be a better property for us. I follow Bill there. I buy a whole bunch of rooms from him. We sell a whole bunch of rooms. Our friendship, relationship, and our partnership is just growing. It's going really, really good. About 2 years later, he calls me up again. He said, Bob, I got another new job. I got a job at the Flamingo Hilton. Now, the Flamingo Hilton was one of the best properties on the strip back then, still is a very good property. He says, you want to follow me there and buy a room? Sure. So I follow Bill there. I buy rooms from Bill. We're selling all kinds of rooms. Our friendship, relationship, partnership just flourishes. And then I got the call. Bill calls me again. Bob, I got another new job. I got a job at the Mirage and the Golden Nugget, overseeing both properties. The Golden Nugget is the best, still is the best property downtown. The Mirage was the best property on the strip at the time and still a very good property. He said, I would like to sell you some rooms. And I said to Bill, I'd like to buy some rooms. Our friendship and relationship and partnership just continued to flourish until 1990. 2 events happened in 1990. The first event was the first Iraq War. Now, if you know anything about turmoil in the world, people just don't like to fly as much when there's turmoil. The other event, we had the most mild winter we had ever had, very, very mild. And that's the other thing about us Minnesotans. We don't need to escape the state when the weather's good. Our business was going into the tank. It was horrible. It looked like we were facing bankruptcy. My boss comes to me and he says, Bob, he says, I would like you to go to Las Vegas. Me again? He says, yeah, I'd like you to go to Las Vegas, and I'd like you to meet with the 15 hotels we're working with and tell them the $200,000 that we owe them on rooms that we've already used, we can't pay them. Now, this is 40 years ago. $200,000, well, I guess it still kind of is, a lot of money. I said to my boss, why me? He said, well, you built these friendships, these relationships, and these partnerships. They'll understand. I'm not so sure. I've seen The Godfather. I know what they do to people that take money from them. I was scared to death. I didn't want to go. I decided to fly out on our charter. It was a 4-day, 3-night charter. I didn't reserve a hotel. I was convinced I was going to drive back and forth every night to LA. Harder to get a horse head in LA than it is in Vegas. But flying to Vegas, I rent a car. I'm going to get the worst out of the way first. I'm going to go meet with Bill. We owed the Mirage and the Golden Nugget $90,000. I walk into Bill's office, I sit down, and I look him square in the eye, and I say, Bill, I've got a problem. We owe you $90,000, and we can't pay you. The silence in the room was deafening. He looks up to me, and he says, where are you staying tonight? Where am I staying tonight? What kind of question is that? He caught me so off guard. I said, Bill, I just assumed I'd be sleeping in the desert. He said to me, how many nights are you in town? I said, well, I'm 4 days, 3 nights. He said, you're staying here. I said, Bill, I can't stay here. You're staying here. He says, I'm sure you got other business to go talk with your other hotels, come back. I think I met with an additional 3 hotels. It was the hardest day of my life. These people I'd known for 10 years. They were friends, relationships, partnerships. And I got to go tell them we can't pay them? I came back that night and I'm exhausted. I go up to the front desk, I ask for my key. The lady slides me a card key, and on that card key it had 5 stars on it. I think that's kind of weird. And then she directs me over to this single elevator over here. And I'm seeing a whole bank of elevators over there. Thinking, this is kind of weird. Well, I go over there, and there's a guard standing there, and he wants to see my card key. So I show it to him. He opens up the elevator. I walk in. It shoots me up to the top floor. Bill had comped me the penthouse of the Mirage for 4 days and 3 nights. I'm thinking he just wants to keep me close. Not only did he do that, he comped all my food and all my liquor. I got to tell you, I needed the liquor. What I understood that day, and every day since, is the power and the strength of friendships, relationships, and partnerships. Bill was taking care of me at a very, very tough time in my life, and he was doing that because of our friendship that we'd established over that 10 years. Now, we've all had big wins in our life, and I'm willing to bet those big wins are a result of friendships, relationships, and partnerships that you've established. I've studied many successful salespeople and many successful business people, and the one common thread that I find in that is their ability to build friendships, relationships, and long-term partnerships. I build ships, but not one of my ships float. I don't even like the water. My ships soar, my ships flourish. Building ships has been one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done in my life. I build ships. I build friendships, relationships, partnerships, and sponsorships. Do you build ships? Is building ships important for you in your job or your everyday life? Sometimes when we build ships, we need to step outside our comfort zone, push ourselves, challenge ourselves beyond our comfort level. Change happens outside our comfort zone, and when that change happens, there's nothing better. I remember when we were hiring Shannon. Greg and I and a few other people were on the search committee. We interviewed Shannon, and she leaves. And Greg looks at the committee and says, if we hire Shannon, we better get comfortable getting uncomfortable. I got to tell you something. We were a little uncomfortable at first, but we're very comfortable with Shannon right now, and I'm hoping after Shannon is done today, we're all going to be as comfortable as the board of directors is. I have a lot of people ask me, forgot my button. I have a lot of people ask me, why are you speaking if you're so afraid of it, so outside your comfort zone? My wife asks me that all the time, and I don't have a real good answer, but I liken it to the days that I ran. I ran for 25 years. I ran 2 marathons, several half marathons, and I can honestly say there was not one time that I enjoyed a run. Never did. Never. What I enjoyed is when I got done. The physical and the mental and the emotional and the spiritual lift I got from that run was absolutely the best. I'm going to tell you something today. In about an hour's time, there's not going to be anybody in this room that's going to feel better than me. Today I'm going to share some experiences with you about the importance of building ships. Some things that I've learned about the importance of a solid foundation when building ships. A solid foundation in building ships consists of hard work, trust, respect, goals, and passion. If it's important to you, you have to have a solid foundation. Without a solid foundation, your ship won't go far. With a solid foundation, your ship will stand the test of time. And without it, your ship may not move forward. It may even sink long before it leaves port. I'm convinced we start building a foundation at a very young age. And for the most part, we probably don't know we're doing it. I started building my foundation in the 3rd grade. I worked very, very hard. You see, there are no secrets to success. Success is a result of hard work. Success is a result of perfection, hard work, learning from your mistakes, and loyalty to those whom you serve. That's what hard work is about. I worked very, very hard as a young man. I shoveled snow, I mowed lawns, and I raked leaves. Back then, I got an allowance of 25 cents a week. 25 cents a week. Back then, that wasn't very much money, and I mean way back then. So if I wanted anything of value, I had to learn how to earn it. By the time I was in the 4th grade, I had 16 seasonal jobs of mowing lawns, raking leaves, and shoveling snow. But I learned something else about my foundation at that point. I learned about trust. Trust is the ultimate human foundation for deep, soulful living. Without it, we are rudderless boats in a sea of indecision. You see, what was happening, there was a lot of kids in my neighborhood that wanted my shoveling jobs and my mowing jobs and my raking jobs. They didn't get them because my customers knew when the lawns needed mowing, the leaves needed raking, and most importantly, the snow needed shoveling, I was there. I showed up. Sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock, driveways and sidewalks were getting shoveled. And if they didn't get shoveled before school, they got shoveled right after school. Now, I know we all work with people that we don't trust. I got a favorite. Not that I work with. Well, I work with him, but he's not part of Graham. Worked with him for 10 years. And he happened to work with one of the Minnesota sports professional teams. And I really liked the guy. We had a good time. We laughed, we cried, always had a good time. But I didn't trust him. Now, I don't know if he wasn't trustworthy or if he just wasn't detailed or disciplined or organized or whatever, but it didn't matter. The fact of the matter is, I could not trust him. And every time I had a conversation with him, whether it was on the phone or face-to-face, I followed up with an email recapping everything we talked about. What an absolute waste of time. So if trust isn't in your foundation, that's a very critical part to move your ships forward. Another very critical component to a solid foundation is respect. Respect for ourselves guides our morals. Respect for others guides our manners. Respect is such an easy part of a foundation. You don't have to like the people you work with. You don't have to like your boss. And if you don't like them and they're sitting next to you right now, don't look at them. But you do have to give them respect. You have to show them the respect. You have to show them the respect to earn respect. Respect is such a critical part of any foundation. Another very critical part, and we've all been told about this one, are goals. Goals turn the invisible into the visible. Goals propel us forward. Goals make insurmountable mountains into walkable hills. Goals help us believe in ourselves. I don't like this last one. Goals hold us accountable. How do you know where you're going if you don't have a goal? Better yet, how do you know if you've arrived if you don't have a goal? Now, our parents told us the importance of goals, then our teachers, then our moms and dads. It's so very, very critical, and a lot of us aren't very good at it. The experts will tell us if we set goals for a year, we tend to overshoot. We set more goals than we can possibly accomplish. And then they'll tell us, set them for 3 years. And when we do that, what happens? We don't set enough. So the ideal thing when you set goals, you use reflective thinking. And what I mean by that, look at the goals you set this year. Were you close? Did you achieve them? Because if you didn't, they probably weren't realistic. They may not have been smart. But use reflective thinking when you're setting goals. Now, like I said, anything that's important should have a goal. I had a goal today. My goal was to get through this presentation without passing out. I think I'm going to make it. The last component to a solid foundation, I think it's probably one of the most important, is passion. Passion. Do you look forward to go to work every day? Or is it drudgery? I look forward to go to work every day. I absolutely love my job. I can't wait to get there. And what I found is if you can be passionate about your job, it doesn't come easy. When I first started at Grand, I didn't know if I was going to like the job. I found something to be passionate about because I'm convinced passion grows. If you nurture that passion, it will grow. And when you do that, it'll be a job, but it won't be work. Now, when I was a little kid, mowing those lawns, it was hard work. It was sweaty work. I got $1 a yard. When I got done, I was passionate about how my job looked. I'd step back and I'd look at that lawn and I said, by golly, I did a good job on that. Now today, 50 years later, when I mow my lawn, I step back and I look at that job because I'm passionate about it. Everything I do, I find passion in. And when I think about passion, guess who I think about? Shannon. She is so passionate about this chamber. She's so passionate about this community. She is so passionate about the direction we're going in. How can you not trust the message that she's given us? And we are going to hear the message. Love what you do. Do what you love. There's nothing better. By the time I was in the 4th grade, we had a sales contest in our school, and all of us have been faced with that one way or another, either ourselves or our kids. For the first 3 years, we were to sell the world's famous chocolate. I was my own best customer. I love that, still do. I look for it all the time. Somebody in the 4th grade decided we needed a different product. I didn't care. I was passionate about being the top salesperson. I set a goal to be the top salesperson, and nothing was going to stop me. But I had a couple obstacles. You see, all my classmates, it seemed like their parents were working in a factory, in a retail setting, or an office setting. And the kids would bring the product home, give it to their parents. The parents would come into work the next day, set it on the receptionist's desk, and the receptionist was selling it. I was going up against every receptionist in my hometown. I didn't stand a chance. So that night, I sat down and I made a list of everybody I could think of, friends, relatives, everybody I could think of. Guess who was on the list? My 16 seasonal customers. And I started knocking on doors and making phone calls, and they started buying. And when they didn't buy, or if they did buy, they referred me to their friends, their relatives, and their neighbors. And the reason they did that is because they trusted me. They trusted that I would go out and make a decent presentation, and that if they didn't buy, I would treat everybody with the respect that they deserved. And that's why a foundation is so very, very important. Top salesperson in the 4th grade. Not only top salesperson in the 4th grade, I outsold all grades 1 through 8. And I did it because of friendships, relationships, and partnerships. They were all helping me move my ships forward. Now, by the time I was in the 5th grade, there was the most coveted job, Brad, in my hometown of Spencer, Iowa. And that was to be a delivery boy for the Spencer Daily Times. It was a job every 4th, 5th, and 6th grader wanted. And the reason they wanted that is because they all had the nicest bikes, all had the nicest bats and balls and gloves, and I wanted that job so bad. So I started making friends with the neighborhood kid that was in our neighborhood delivering papers. And if you could have that job in your own neighborhood, boy, you had it then because you didn't have to ride your bike clear across town to deliver papers. So I started helping the neighborhood kid deliver papers on cold days, wet days, Sundays when the paper was that thick. But I didn't think it was going to be enough. So I did a little research and I found out about a newspaper called The Grit. Now The Grit, I see somebody shaking their head, they've heard of it. The Grit was a unique newspaper in that it was a weekly newspaper. And before you could deliver it, you had to buy it. And then you had to sell it, and then you could deliver it. So I went to the bank the next day and I took out my life savings, $20 at the time, and I bought every single Grit I could get my hands on for 20 bucks. They delivered it. I went out knocking on doors, making phone calls, and no one bought. My parents didn't buy. People with bird cages didn't buy. Nobody wanted it. You see, the paper was a week old. Everybody knew the news already. They didn't need a week-old newspaper. I failed. I failed. And what do you do when that happens? You step back and you rely on your solid foundation. And in my case, hard work, trust, respect, goals, and passion. And that's what takes over. And I had to go back to plan A. I had to work with the neighborhood kid a little bit harder to get to know him a little bit better, hopefully get his job someday. But before I did that, I had to show Grit the respect that they deserve. They gave me an opportunity. I failed at it, but they gave me an opportunity. You see, we had a partnership, and we had a partnership that didn't work. For a partnership to work, both sides have to win. Now, Grit may have won on their side because I got my 20 bucks, but I failed at it. So I had to do the only responsible thing I could possibly do. I had to write my first professional resignation letter. And it went something like this. Dear Grit, I quit. Bob. So I went back to plan A and I start working with my neighborhood kid. And I'm helping him on those cold days, rainy days, and Sundays when the paper's thick. And then one day, I get a call. And it's a paper boy. He says, Bob, he said, I'm going to retire from the paper business and I'm going to refer you to the job. Retire from anything in the 5th grade? How do you do that? he's going to refer me for the job. Not only that, the 16 seasonal customers in my neighborhood were also going to refer me for the job. I got the job. I got the best job a fifth grader could have in Spencer, Iowa. Within a month's time, I had my life savings back up to $20. But it didn't end there. I was a cool kid. I got this. I clipped that thing on my belt. I could make change for a dollar bill faster than anybody in my hometown of Spencer, Iowa. By the time I got to 11th grade, my life had changed dramatically. I lived in an abusive household, and I don't think I realized how bad it was. My parents drank a lot. They fought a lot. Probably some kind of a connection there. And on occasion, my dad would get physical with my mother. And I would remember at nights laying in bed just cowering up under the sheets, afraid to go confront my father. It escalated to a point where my dad lost his business. My parents lost their home. They owed everybody in my hometown of Spencer money, and a lot of it. One day, my mother comes to me and says, we're leaving town. We're moving to St. Paul, Minnesota. But we're not leaving together. Your dad's going this direction, I'm going this direction. Who do you want to live with? Now, it's the summer of my junior year. I don't want to leave. I've got all these people, all these friends that I grew up with. I want to stay in my hometown of Spencer. Stepping outside that comfort zone, I wasn't willing to do it. Go to a big city and try to learn new friends as a senior in high school, I didn't want to do it. And I told Mother, I'm not doing it. So my mother and I sat down. We make a list of people that maybe would have me. And she found a lady that she worked with. And she had a house with a room on her second floor that she was willing to rent out to me for $40 a month. $40 a month. But back then, and kind of crazy, but you have to have parents apparently to live on your own or to go to school. I needed a guardian. Homer and Maureen Rung were willing to sign guardianship papers for me. You see, we had a partnership that worked. I got a room and I got guardianship papers, and Homer and Maureen got $40 a month. Turns out for their liquor cabinet, they drank a little bit more than my mom and dad did. So I lived on the second floor, and every day I would walk downstairs, go through the kitchen, into the basement, the shower, to get ready for school. I lived there for 15 months. Not one time did I get invited for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I had 3 jobs at the time, all gotten by relationships. And one of my jobs was in the Spencer Bakery at the Super Value store. And so working in the Spencer Bakery, I was fed very well. Cookies, donuts, cake, bread. Wasn't very nutritious, but I was never hungry. Plus, I had hot lunch. Hot lunch was such a great thing back then. Then something happened I didn't know the significance of until several years later. On Monday nights, the Brysons would ask me over for dinner. On Tuesday nights, the Lukens, and on Wednesday nights, the Schmidts. And then they started asking me a couple, 2, 3 more nights throughout the week, and then some of my other friends' parents started asking me over for dinner. You see, the friendships I had with my buddies and the relationships I had established with their parents, they were helping me. They were helping move my personal ships forward. Once again, demonstrating to me the power and the strength of friendships and relationships. As it turns out, a lot of my other friends' parents start asking me over for dinner. I graduate from high school. I know I'm not going to college. There's no way. I've got no money. I get a call from a couple uncles on my dad's side. They said, you're going to go to school. I said, no, I'm not. You're going to go to school. I don't have any money. I can't go to school. You're going to go to school. We're going to put you in a community college. We got you a job driving school bus, and you're going to live with your grandmother. Live with my grandmother as a freshman in college? Does it get any better than that? Best 2 years of my life. I move in with my grandmother. We start the process a little bit late. I can't get into the fall semester, so I have to wait and start the winter semester. But I want to finish my AA degree with the rest of the kids, so I took 23 credits for 3 semesters. I get my AA degree, and I know it's all over. I'm done with school. I got to go out in the workforce. The summer of my sophomore year, the Lukens invited me to come and live with them. I had no place else to go. I thought this is a good deal. So I went and lived with the Lukens, and they offered me a job in their lumber yard. So I had a job. I had a roof over my head. One night, Mr. Luken is asking me, "You're going to go on to school, right?" I said, "No." "No." "Well, why not?" "Well, I don't have any money. I have no money." He says, "Well, why don't you get a school loan?" Nobody's going to loan me money. My parents owe everybody in town money, and a lot of it. I had a good credit rating. I still had my paper route money and my shoveling money in the bank. So that's the bank I went to the next day. I remember asking him for a school loan, and he turns to me and he says, "We'll loan you the money if you can get Mr. Luca to move his business account from his bank to our bank." Somebody told me that's not legal anymore, but you see, Mr. Lucan was one of the most successful people in my hometown, and everybody wanted his business. I couldn't ask Mr. Lucan to do that. I went home that night pretty dejected. We're having dinner. Mr. Lucan asked me how it went. I said, "I don't want to talk about it." "How did it go?" So I told him how it went. He told me, he says, "I want you to go back to that banker tomorrow, and you tell him I'll co-sign the loan. And if that's not good enough, you tell him my bank will loan you the money." Now, the question I have for everyone, how many people in this room would co-sign a school loan for a 20-year-old whose parents ran out of town and owed everybody in town money? Not many. Probably none. Once again, demonstrating to me the power and the strength of friendships and relationships and what that will do to move your ships forward. I'm going to go on to college. I'm going to go to St. Cloud. I found a buddy of mine who was going to go to school with me. And I remember we were driving around town trying to find a good college housing that would be really nice. And we found some college. Well, we thought it was college housing. It was a very nice apartment. We each had our own bedroom, pool, a sauna. I should have known when I saw 2 of my professors living there that it probably wasn't housing for college students. By November, I was broke. I'd gone completely through my entire school loan. I had no money, none left. I was devastated. Halfway through the semester, and I'm broke. I remember pulling out a newspaper looking for a job, and yes, back then we used newspapers looking for a job. And all I saw was bartenders, cleaning services, retail, whatever, and it paid like $1.50 an hour or something like that, and I knew it wasn't going to be enough money. So I'm paging through the paper, I'm panicking. And then I see it. Big, bold print. Salesman wanted. Top salesperson in the 4th grade. I can do this. I call up the phone number. They invited me over for an interview. I drive over the next day looking for the address, and it's kind of weird. It's in a residential area, and I'm thinking, that's kind of weird, but it was the right address. I go up, knock on the door. Gentleman answers the door, invites me in. I walk in. There's 4 or 5 college kids sitting there, and they're talking sales. I kind of like this. And we're there for about 40, 45 minutes, and the gentleman that answered the door comes out, and he's carrying a big case. He opens the case and he lays his product out on the floor. He wants me to sell pots and pans, door to door, to single working girls ages 18 to 25 that are looking for cookware for their hope chest. First of all, I'm shy, I'm introverted, it's way outside my comfort zone, and I'm scared to death of girls. But he convinces us that the product will sell itself. Just learn the product, get out in front of qualified individuals, and they'll buy. So I go through the training. I had to borrow the $15 for the registration fee. Go through intense training for a day, and I learned something that day, and that was the importance of product knowledge. Because if you have product knowledge, it makes your selling a whole lot easier. We get done for the day, and he says, okay, guys, go out, come back tomorrow morning, and what I want is a list of everybody you know, guys, gals, doesn't matter. Went home that night, I started making out my list. I'd done that before. I came back with 4 legal pages of names. There was guys on there was gals on there, you name it. And what they told us is, remember now, guys have girlfriends, mothers, sisters, so that's a lead for you. And they were right. Start making phone calls and people were buying. Before I knew it, rent was paid, car insurance was paid, tuition was paid. Not only was a car payment made, but I bought a brand new car, drove it off the showroom floor as a junior in college. Things were going really, really good until I went through the 4 pages of leads. I had no more names. I remember going to my boss's office and I said, boss man, I need some names. He said, what do you mean you need some names? I said, I've used all mine. Can you give me some prospects? He said, no. I said, what do you mean no? He said, you got to go out and cold call. You got to knock on doors and find single working girls that way. You talk about outside your comfort zone. Now, we've all had door-to-door salespeople, right? Ladies will particularly appreciate this. Ooh. Would you let him in? You dated that. I knew it wouldn't work. Way outside my comfort zone and looking like that. I came up with plan B, and I made a list of everybody that I sold and everybody I missed. And I called every one of them. And I made a deal with them. If you give me names of 3 to 5 single working girls that don't have cookware, I'll give you a very nice gift that will look great in your kitchen someday. You see, what I was doing is I was creating a partnership. For a partnership to work and for it to be long-term, it's got to be a win-win for both sides. I got 3 to 5 names. They got a nice gift that would look good in their kitchen for years to come. It was working great. Sales were going good. Then I got married. And I realized at that point that talking to single girls from 5 o'clock at night to 10 o'clock at night probably wasn't a real good recipe for a long-term marriage. So I got a job. And guess what? I got it through a relationship. Never had an interview. I didn't have an interview until I was about, 80 or something. And that job was selling airplanes, the one I talked about earlier. And it was my job to sell charters. And some of you maybe remember the old charter days. The old charter days was very, very popular because you could fly to Mexico, Vegas, California, Jamaica for about 1/3 of the price you could on scheduled air. And it was pretty simple why. On scheduled air back in the day, they would price their cost and their profit on about a 30% load factor. Charters base their prices on a 100% load factor. So if you had an airplane of 100 seats, scheduled air, if they got 30 seats, they made the money they felt they had to make. Anything above that was gravy. For charters, if we were selling it, we had to sell all 100 seats. And so that's why the prices were so low. I was the 4th salesperson hired, and they gave me the territory of Northwest Iowa and Southeast Iowa. They didn't even give me Des Moines. And it was my job not only to go out and sell the airplanes, but to have the travel agents take the risk. So I remember talking to a lot of travel agents, and they loved the product. They knew it was a product they could sell, but none of them were big enough to take on a full airplane, the risk that came with it. So what I start doing is with hard work, trust, respect, we start building a partnership. I got 3 to 4 competitors, hard competitors, people that competed with each other every day to work together. And what they would do is take 20, maybe 30 seats on an airplane. That way they didn't have to take on the whole 100 seats and have the full risk. As it turns out, by the end of the season, most of them ended up taking more of the seats than they would have had they just taken one plane and gotten the ability to sell it. So with the partnership we created, I outsold the other 3 salespeople, and all of them had been there over at least a year longer than me, combined. Because once again, using that friendship and relationship that I'd established through a solid foundation, we were outselling them. I told you earlier about the fiasco when we had to fly to Vegas and tell them the bad news. But about 4 months before that, I get a phone call. And it's from a guy that identified himself as Jack from an Indian casino. And Jack called me up. He says, we're looking for a reservation agent. We're looking for somebody that will take reservations for our play and stay program. And I asked him, what's a play and stay program? He said, well, a play and stay program is when we put hotels with a casino, because what we know is people will spend more money if they stay longer. They're overnighting, they'll spend more money than if they go up there for a day trip. Well, I asked him, how many hotels you got? He said, well, we don't have any. You want to build a play and stay program, you have no hotels, right? He said, that's right. So I go back to my boss and I tell him about this. He laughs at me. He said, are you kidding me? An Indian casino in Minnesota? That'd never work. Get out of here. I leave the office. I'm quite dejected. I go back to my desk and I call Jack up. And with all the respect that Jack deserved, I told him, Jack, it's just not good timing. Maybe later. We'll do it another time. But we just can't do it now. 4 months later, I make that trip to Vegas. A couple months later, I'm out of a job. 3 small kids, a stay-at-home wife, and no job. Scared to death. I'm sure everybody probably at one time or another has been faced with that. What do? You step back and you rely on your solid foundation. In my case, hard work, trust, respect, goals, and passion. Once again, I pull out the newspaper, start looking for a job, and there I see it in the newspaper, Grand Casino. So I call up, get an interview. That same day, I had an interview with Carlson Travel Company. I remember leaving my home that day and telling my wife that I had 2 interviews. If they both offer me a job, I'll probably go with Carlson Travel. Indian casinos are never going to make it. I got the job. Jack remembered me when I had treated him with all the respect that he deserved. He offered me the job. I took it. I went home that night and told my wife I took the Grand Casino job, not the Carlson job. You did what? Well, only for 6 months. We got insurance and we got a paycheck. In 6 months, I'll find a real job. How's that worked for me 27 years later? So I'm working for Grand Casino. My primary job at that point was to put together our play and stay program. We didn't have any hotels. So what I had to do is go out and meet with hotels in about a 45-mile radius of Grand Casino Mille Lacs. Now keep in mind, these are small hotels in small communities. A lot of them didn't like us. A lot of them were threatened by us. A lot of them were afraid of us. With a solid foundation of trust and respect, we built a partnership. And all these hotels, we had approximately 10 of them, were selling us hotel rooms at half their rack rate. Rack rate retail, same thing. So if their rack rate was $100, they'd sell it to us for $50 on a free sell up until 30 days. At 30 days, we could release whatever we didn't sell. And if at 10 days we had somebody request a room, we could pick it up at half the rack rate. We had a partnership that was working. It was a great partnership, and it wouldn't have worked without a solid foundation. Trust was a key ingredient to that. Then in '98, I was asked to put together a convention sales program. I don't know anything about convention sales, way outside my comfort zone. I did know sales, and I did know how to build friendships and relationships and partnerships. I start meeting with meeting planners. We start selling our convention sales program, and a lot of those people are still with us 20 years later. Then in the early 2000s, you maybe remember this, Governor Pawlenty wanted to start some state-run casinos. Now, if he was successful at that, what we did know is he wasn't going to put one in Hinckley. He wasn't going to put one in Mille Lacs. He was going to put one in Rochester, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Duluth, St. Cloud, all the big cities. And what we knew is every Indian Casino in the state of Minnesota was reliant on the casinos for economic development, for employment, for everything. We knew it was going to create a lot of problems for us if Governor Pawlenty was successful in that. Our people told us we'd probably have about a 50% reduction in our revenues if that happened, and that would equate to at least 50% job losses. I remember sitting down with our general manager and our VP of marketing and our PR firm at the time. And our PR firm was sitting down with us, and he told us, somehow, some way, you need to make friends in the community. This is probably going to happen, and if it happens, you need to be the first casino on everybody's mind. That's the only way you're going to survive. So they charged me with the job of making friends. Wasn't quite sure how to do it, but I was pretty sure that chambers of commerce was a good way to start. But it was way outside my comfort zone, again, because our business was 90 miles away. And I got to go try and meet with a chamber in the Twin Cities. I remember going to my first chamber, and I meet this chamber president. She's a young, vibrant redhead that's got fire in her eyes. And she was so passionate about the job she did. She got me really excited about a chamber, and I joined. And I remember going to my first chamber event, and I went and sat down, shook hands with everybody at the table, went to my second chamber event, walked in, and it had been so easy to sit with the people I'd met the week before, but I didn't. Said hi to them all, and I went to another table, sat down, and met new friends. The third meeting I went to, same thing. Go to the first table, say hi, second table, say hi, third table, sit down, and make more friends. Every time it was uncomfortable. It was way outside my comfort zone. It had been so much easier to sit down with the people that I'd met the first 2 weeks. I was making friends. And what I would do is every time I'd go to that chamber meeting, I'd go up and shake hands with Shannon. Then I'd try to get to know some of the chamber board members. Then I tried to get to know some of the committee members, because those were the people that were going to move the chamber forward. And if they moved the chamber forward, it maybe helped me move my ship forward. But what I learned about all of that is if you got the right people helping you move your ships forward, it goes forward so much faster. Then about 5 or 6 months later, Shannon comes to me and says, "You want to be on the board of directors?" Board of directors? What is that? Motion this, second that? You want to talk about outside your comfort zone? I had no idea what a board of directors was, but I knew that it was important. So I said, yes, Shannon, I would. I can't get rid of her. She keeps asking me. I'm still here. And then I joined my second chamber. And I did the same thing. I replicated what I did with the first chamber. And then I joined my third chamber, replicating what I did with my third chamber. And before I knew it, we were members of 12 chambers of commerce. And I got asked for another board and another board. I was on 5 boards at the same time, 12 chambers of commerce. And at that point, when you're trying to juggle 12 chambers, one person, you have to figure out a strategy. What's going to work best for your business? First of all, chamber presidents like Shannon were going to help move your ship forward. But your strategy is what's going to move your ship forward the fastest and the best possible way. For me, it was getting into maybe a large group or maybe a political group where we could help talk to politicians and help move our ship forward. But once again, by doing all that, I realized how important it was to continue to build those friendships, relationships, and partnerships. And I also learned something very important, not to prejudge who might be a good partner. I remember being part of the White Bear Lake Chamber and being asked to be on the board. And in my first board meeting, I'm sitting next to this guy and I'm thinking, God, he's wearing blue jeans and he probably wouldn't make a good partner. But I got to know him a little bit. We got quite a friendship. And we built a relationship. And then one day, we built a partnership. See, he owned Pine Tree Apple Orchard in White Bear Lake. We bought 9,000 half-peck bags of apples from him 3 years in a row. We were his biggest customer ever. It was a partnership that worked very, very good because we got a very, very good product. He had a lot of sales. And a little bit while longer, he comes to me one day and he says, Bob, he says, we do a tennis tournament for cancer. Would you be willing to sponsor it? And we did. It went full cycle, friendship, relationship, partnership, and sponsorship. And what I learned through all of this, working with the chambers and what they can do for us in that effort, is there was another ship coming into port. And that was leadership. Whether it's in your church, your community, your chamber, doesn't matter, your neighborhood, you got all your ships lined up and going in the right direction. Leadership comes into play. And it comes into play with a solid foundation. If you don't know what your foundation is, figure it out. It's never too late. I don't know if I had ever put mine on paper until I put this presentation together. I build ships, friendships, relationships, partnerships, and sponsorships. Now, before I leave today, I want to tell you one little story, because I've talked a lot about the importance of building friendships and relationships outside your businesses. Some of you may know who this individual is. His name is Connor Cook. Connor Cook played for Michigan State. He was a quarterback that everybody thought he was a physical specimen. Any kind of quarterback you'd want, this is a guy you'd want. A lot of people thought he'd go in the first round, maybe top 10, maybe top 5, maybe even 1 or 2. Millions of dollars for this young man. He was the last pick in the 4th round. People couldn't believe it. Experts couldn't believe it. They didn't know why. They start talking to a lot of his friends. And what they found is that friends and football players on his team said the one and only same thing. He was incapable of making a relationship. A quarterback incapable of making a relationship with his team is not going to go very far. Last pick in the 4th round. So before I introduce Shannon, I'll leave you with this. There are small ships and there are big ships, but there are no ships like friendships. Thank you. Okay.
Awesome.
I get the pleasure of introducing Shannon to you guys. I told you earlier what Greg had said. We better get comfortable being uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable. But I'm comfortable now, and I think the board is comfortable now. And I think after you hear what Shannon has to say, we're all going to get comfortable with Shannon. We have to support her because I'm not sure. I'm going to do this when I get home. I'm going to look in the dictionary, and I'm pretty sure there's probably under passion a picture of Shannon.
Oh, thank you.
She's one of the most passionate people I've ever known, and that's what draws a lot of us toward her. She's going to get this done. I'm excited about our future. I know it's going to work.
Thank
Shannon?
you. Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Thank you.
That's it.
Here, give me that.
Oh, you need that?
Thank you. Yeah. Well, if you think of passion, you can definitely tell that Bob exuded plenty of that from the stage. So, yes, all of those ships, little did he know that he would be speaking about all of those. He demonstrated a mere 18 years ago at the age of 24 when I took my first president and CEO job of a chamber, not knowing anything of what I was doing. I found a friendly face at one of my very first meetings, and that was with Bob. And I've had that throughout my career and just think the world of him. So thank you for all of the ships that we have had throughout my career. So great, gives me great pleasure, obviously, to present to you the Envision TwinWest platform and really the new strategy of where we're headed in the future. Greg alluded to earlier the leadership retreat that we had in June. So I took the helm here in February. Really excited to be back because I started my chamber career here in Minneapolis, and what we found here in the metro region was TwinWest was always the iconic chamber. It was the chamber that others were aspiring to have. And so for me, it was a great honor when I had the opportunity to come in and serve this chamber. And when we brought everyone together, I interviewed with a very non-traditional chamber approach. And I'm really grateful that there was enough trust and courage built up to bring me on. But I was coming from numerous other chamber experiences, 17 years in the industry, 4 different states, learned a lot about different communities. But just for a minute, imagine or envision this. Imagine that this is your community. Because in June of 2008, I was recruited to Cedar Rapids, Iowa 41 days after this. This was a disaster of ridiculous magnitude. $6 billion of damage was done to the city of Cedar Rapids. 5,400 homes were destroyed and 1,200 businesses were destroyed. When I interviewed, believe me, and for those of you from Iowa, I apologize, but when I interviewed, being a good Wisconsin girl, I said, I'm not going to Iowa. But then I realized the opportunity. And even better, I realized that my leadership, friendships, partnerships, sponsorships, experience could make a difference in this community, a community that desperately needed something. So when I got there, little did I know, I learned the greatest bit of information, the most impactful part of all of my professional career came out of Cedar Rapids. Because in the face of adversity, communities came together differently. They came together looking at the fact that I sat not across the table, but right next to what people would say are sheer enemies, right next to labor leaders. Those of you that know, labor and chambers generally don't get along real well. We sat right there every single week. We sat with municipality leaders, sat with faith-based leaders, nonprofit leaders, all with one common goal. The common goal was to rebuild this community better than it was before. And so when you imagine now our future, my hope is that we don't have to have a terrible disaster or huge adversity to be able to sit with one another, build relationships and respect with one another so that we can do great things together. And that's what propels me. That's the passion that we have about the work that we do. I love the Chamber of Commerce work. I think that it's very critical. I sit on 2 national boards, have great experience, and a great network of leadership all across the country. And so we're finding that some things are shifting. We have some shifting tides in the work that we are doing. It's the same for your businesses. It's the same for our communities, for those of our municipality leaders here. We're seeing great shifts like globalization, knowing that we're competing in a global marketplace now more than we have ever competed in the past. We have tremendous demographic shifts that are causing both opportunity but also challenge to our communities, to our businesses. And there are significant gaps and roles that we have identified. There are things that we wish we could do better. And the fact that we could come together and leverage assets to make this community better, to make this region better, and doing it all with passion and purpose, as Bob spoke of, but also all with courage and will, because this work is not easy. And so this is the part that when we look to the chamber now and the future of the chamber, I hope you describe us as a catalytic leader, because I'm not going to go through this whole list of catalytic leadership. But I will tell you, we are acting, not just talking about, we're acting in the way of a catalytic leader. So we're focusing on relationships. We're focusing on gathering diverse thought. We're focusing on you, our network. I don't want to be the one that is the champion and cheerleader only. I want all of you to be the champion and cheerleader for this region and for us to come together to work together on this. And so out of all of this has come a lot of new. Greg and Patty both spoke of it. I have tremendous support and leadership on our board of directors, and thank you to all of our board members for your significant contribution. but new mission statement, new governance model, new business model, and new cornerstones of work that we're headed into. And so I am really excited to share that with you. But the other thing that I'm excited to share is that there are other leaders across the country that are recognizing this. On the national perspective, this is a quote that came out of a white paper that I helped on the national scope to put together around what are the next 8 factors that are going to influence chambers in the next 10 years. And catalytic leadership is the 8th one, but I would call it one of the most important ones and a huge opportunity for us. So TwinWest embarked on a new mission statement. Greg, thankfully, nicely recited it before, because we were really passionate about having a mission statement that each and every one of you can talk about. Because if there's one thing about a Chamber of Commerce, I get this all the time. What the hell is a Chamber of Commerce, and what do you do anyway? Well, this is what we do, but we need to make it simple. And the other thing, there's a big philosophical shift in the way in which we're thinking of the Chamber now. The previous mission statement was very member-centric. We are a membership organization. We advocate on behalf of our members. Don't get me wrong. Membership is critically important. It will always be an important piece of where we're going. But we have to operate and think differently. We have to think about the stakeholders, think about the partners, think about those that we can, that may not join our organization, but are impacted by the work that we do. And so that common shared mission is growth and prosperity. We want a vibrant region. We want healthy communities. We want a great education system. We want workforce that wants to stay here, and we want businesses that are successful. So together around that shared mission, that's where we come up with this mission statement. And if you notice, it includes communities, it includes people, and it includes businesses. We will always be promoting and protecting business. That is a really critical part of the work that we will do. We will continue to be the business advocate. But long gone are the days that in order for business to succeed, the community needs to fail. Or in order for business to succeed, we can't invest in people. That's just not the case anymore. We don't have to have a winner and a loser in all of this. Instead, we have to collaborate and partner and come together for this. So that's the part where I'm really excited about that new mission. But with a new mission comes a brand new governance model. And the governance model is different, I will tell you. And I'm sure that whole comfortable, uncomfortable thing pushed a few of our board members. Because I pushed them to say, I want our board of directors to represent our community. I want us to have diversity of thought, diversity in all aspects of type of business, gender, race, all of that needs to be part of our board. But we also need business leaders that can make decisions on our board. So the board will be C-level individuals. That doesn't mean corporate. That means C-level individuals, whether you're a municipality leader, a school district leader, a small business owner, a large corporation, a nonprofit, those types of leadership. And we will come together making sure that we are utilizing your time so that we're only coming together on a quarterly basis. And we're coming together for strategy and discussing the vision and how do we work better together to achieve that mission. We'll build out our executive committee so that there's still due diligence, so that I'm not just running away with the organization. There's still due diligence there. That executive committee will do more of the day-to-day pieces of that. That's a part we're really excited about. But then we'll also build out those task forces and those committees. And we may rename some of them because, in all honesty, the word committee is not very appealing to our millennial generation. And we know we are very, very dependent. Our future is dependent upon our millennials, our Gen Zs, but it's also dependent upon all of the existing business leadership that's currently there. So that's the new governance model that we're looking at. The business model also is very, very different. This is one that this business model has been used in other organizations across the country, but it's very new for this marketplace. So we're really approaching this as membership will always be a cornerstone, a pillar of what we are, our funding model, but we're also going to be looking to organizations differently. We're going to be saying, do you believe in the work that we are doing? Do you believe in investing in the 4 cornerstones? Because then we want an investment from you. We want you to invest not just financial resources, but also human capital with us. in an initiative type of a base, a greater good approach versus a what's in it for me approach. That's where we're headed. And in doing so, we're also able to approach different people in different ways. So we can look to foundations that are aligned with the work that we're doing. We can look to public-private partnerships. I have a lot of school district and municipality leaders in this room today. You are critical partners to our success in the future. And I'm really excited about the conversations that we've been having in that regard. So as we talk about the 4 cornerstones, Greg alluded to them earlier, and I call them cornerstones because, as you can see, they're interlocked and interwoven. This is not a separate, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. It's all joined together. And by the way, all of you should have gotten a survey this morning by email that asked you to give us some feedback, because we're continuing and we will continue to gather input and change this model. But that survey also had the executive summary of this presentation, so you can use that, but we'll send that out to you again. I don't have time to go through every one of these, and candidly, you don't want me to go through every one of these, but I will assure you that I will touch on a couple of the factors, and I would ask you to think about, are there areas that spark interest and passion in what I have to say? Because if so, we need you to be involved. We need you to be engaged with us. So entrepreneurship and small business, I am a lover of small businesses. It's the lifeblood of our economy. It's the entrepreneurialism. I have a very entrepreneurial spirit. You'll see the chamber doing a lot of entrepreneurial type things. That's the way that I think. But our entrepreneurship and small business programming in the past has been somewhat still very strong. Great networking events. Those are changing as well. We're really looking for how do we be a lot more purposeful, a lot more connected. An example of that is in my previous chamber, we did our typical after hours. Business after hours, everyone comes together, and exchanges business cards and whatnot. We were seeing 40, 50 people on average, generally the same people every month coming to these networking events, until we did one thing. We said to Feeding America, it was the first charity that we worked with, we said to Feeding America, we want your board of directors to host the after hours. So we still had cocktails, we still had food, we still had music, but we had it at Feeding America. And what we then did is set up stations, and as you networked, you packed boxes of food. So our numbers went from 40 to 50 on average. There were 357 people that came to that event, because people want to make a difference. They want to make an impact. And when we walked out of there packing 21,000 boxes of food, people felt like, wow, and I got some business contacts? That's the greater good approach to the work that we're looking at doing. We also know that our small business need a tremendous amount of support as it relates to a trusted group of advisors. And so we're looking at a roundtable program that will kick off for our small businesses, modeled after the Milwaukee model. The Milwaukee Chamber of Commerce administers 36 roundtables every year. These roundtables have about 420 small businesses actively involved in small groups, just focused on building and growing their business. So those are some of the things. We may be streamlining our approach. We also are navigating right now the ecosystem for the entrepreneurial climate, because it is important for us to invest in our startups. And we don't do that all that well in Minnesota. And so we got to figure out, we don't have to lead on everything. We have to figure out who's doing what and how do we partner for strength and leverage assets. When we look at community and economic advancement, economic development is absolutely critical for all of us. It also looks different for every community. And we have 10 phenomenal communities that we serve the footprint of TwinWest. I will tell you, 32% of our investment comes from outside of those 10 communities. So we have tremendous amount of impact and influence in the metro region. But our municipality leaders, I've had the great pleasure of meeting with leadership from every one of those 10 communities to ask the hard questions around how do we build stronger relationships, what can we do to help your city, and what we found from all of that was really resonating in a couple of areas. We need some help with our existing businesses. More outreach to our businesses, and not just having a meeting and saying, hey, how's your business and what can we do to help you? but doing the follow-up, doing the hard work, creating the relationships and the value so that those companies want to stay here and they want to grow here. That's something that is perfect alignment of the work that we do. So we're figuring out how do we create a partnership that reflects that. When we look at advocacy and public policy, without a doubt, the foundation that TwinWest Chamber has been built on. Everybody I talk to, if I ask them, what do you think of when you think of TwinWest? Advocacy and public policy. We are still very, very committed to advocacy and public policy. If you read the Star Trib yesterday, you saw I had an op-ed in the Star Trib. We are still very passionate about the work that we are doing. But we also know there is a tremendous longing for the sane middle. In a world where polarization and fragmentation have seemed to take over, there are a lot of people that are coming to the chamber saying, we just need to get something done, and I get it that we can't get it all done. We need you to lead us, convene us, and help us get to where we need to go. We're really committed to that. And we're committed to it. We're committed to enhancing and growing our local aspects. So we're going to do a lot more of cultivation and identification of candidates because that's important. We need good people running for office. School board, city councils, state representatives, federal. It doesn't matter. We want to help that in that role. So that's kind of some of the areas that we're focusing on advocacy and public policy. And the final cornerstone, and one that I think chambers across the country have a tremendous opportunity to impact, is talent and workforce. Every single one of you, if I asked you right now what one of your top challenges are, if it's not your first, it's definitely your second, the ability to attract, retain, and develop people. And it doesn't matter what size business, it doesn't matter what type of business, this is a huge issue and it is not going to get better. So we're looking at programs all over the country that are looking at talent and workforce. But we're building them out in a few different areas. K-12 is probably one that I'm most passionate about. I see some of my educator leaders here. So a few things that we're going to do around the K-12 piece, because we've already had numerous meetings with our both public and private school districts. So the first is actually implementing a technology software that seamlessly connects you as business leaders or community leaders with educators and with students. Now more than ever, our students are self-navigators. They're looking for career exploration opportunities on their own. Our educators, our teachers, are ever more challenged, and we need to give them some resources. So by using technology, we were able to identify that, hey, if I'm willing to speak in a classroom, job shadow, internship, I can upload my profile, my company's profile, that can then be searched by every educator and by every student. Opportunity for all. So now it's not just those students that are at the top echelon of their class that are getting access to this. It's access for everyone. There's equity in that. And it creates a future pipeline for us. We saw in our my previous chamber, 62% of all internships turned into full-time positions. That's a big deal. So that's one area we're really committed to. We're also really committed to a student leadership program that identifies students with leadership potential and invests in them. This doesn't mean you have to be the top of the class. This means if you have a potential, a passion, and a hunger, we will invest in you so that we can help you be the very best leaders that you possibly can. The rest of the talents perspective really is around diversity and inclusion. There's a tremendous need and want for leadership around diversity and inclusion. We want welcoming and inclusive communities, welcoming and inclusive businesses. And there are chambers across the country that are championing these types of efforts in their community, and they're doing it really, really well. So we're really passionate about that part. We're really passionate about the general leadership, whether it be women's leadership, and we are forming great partnerships with women leadership groups here. I know both WIN and Team Women are in the audience. This is a big deal. They do great work. We don't have to duplicate. We have to leverage. And so whether it's women's leadership, it's professional leadership, it's our millennial and Gen Z leadership. Those are all things that we're looking at investing in. But in all of that work, there has to be tremendous alignment. Because if you read this quote that came out of that white paper, if we bring this type of leadership together, it's really powerful. And it's more powerful than we probably even realize. So now, If you have seen this, you'll have to see it one more time, because I am so moved by the brilliance of this little guy that we'll just let the video speak for itself.
I think we all need a pep talk. The world needs you to stop being boring. Yeah, you. Boring is easy. Everybody can be boring, but you're gooder than that. Life is not a game, people. Life isn't a cereal either. Well, it is a cereal. And if life is a game, aren't we all on the same team? I mean, really, right? I'm on your team, be on my team. This is life, people. You got air coming through your nose. You got heartbeat. That means it's time to do something. A poem. Two roads diverged in the woods, and I took the road less traveled. It hurt, man! Really bad. Rocks, thorns, and glass. My pants broke. Wah! Not cool, Robert Frost. But what if there really were two paths? I want to be in the one that leads to awesome. It's like that dude Journey said, don't stop believing unless you dream stupid. Then you should get a better dream. I think that's how it goes. Get a better dream and keep going. Keep going, and keep going. Will Michael Jordan have quit? Well, he did quit. No, he retired. Yeah, yes, he retired. But before that, in high school, what if he quit when he didn't make the team? He would have never made Space Jam. And I love Space Jam. What will be your Space Jam? What will you create will make the world awesome? Nothing if you keep sitting there. That's why I'm talking to you today. This is your time. This is my time. It's our time. We can make every day better for each other. If we're all on the same team, let's start acting like it. We got work to do. We can cry about it, or we can dance about it. We were made to be awesome. Let's get it out there. I don't know everything. I'm just a kid. But I do know this. Because everybody's due to give the world a reason to dance. So get to it. You've just been pep talked. Create something that will make the world awesome. Play ball.
So we are very excited about where we're headed, but we will not get there without you. So please find a passion area and figure out how to support us. We're going to need, this is a lot of work to do. We're going to need financial resources. We're going to need human capital resources. We're going to need passion. We're going to need leadership. We're going to need all of those aspects. But I will tell you, you have a very committed group of volunteers in our board of directors, and you have a tremendously committed staff. This makes me tear up because they are so passionate about this work. And so many times we don't thank the people behind the scenes. So I know Patty recognized my staff, but I want all of them to stand just one more time because I would not do this work without this fabulous team. Small but mighty we are. But we promise you this, we will make mistakes. And some people said, ooh, I don't know if we should put the word mistakes up there. We will make mistakes. They will not be intentional, but we will make mistakes and we will learn from them. We will also make tough decisions, and I will guarantee you, you will not agree with all the decisions we make. But I hope that you have enough respect and trust in us to know that we are making the tough decisions to better the overall region. And we will make a difference. So we'll learn together, we'll grow together, and best of all, we'll prosper together. I thank you so much for your time and your commitment in being here. I apologize that we ran over a little bit, but now it's time to celebrate. We have cocktails just outside the door. Please stay and share your comments with us. You'll also get a little bit of survey information. Please fill that out. We want constructive criticism. We want to know from you what resonated, what didn't. Are we on track? Are we not?
But more than anything, thank you for this great opportunity to lead such a great organization. Have a great day.